Welcome to RV to Freedom Live with Carenza and Brandon.
Howdy, how's it going?
We're here to help future nomads smoothly transition into full-time RV life with our Facebook group, RV to Freedom.
Our Facebook page where this video is coming from, our website, rvtofreedom.com. And we have a course that you guys have probably heard about called Roadmap to Full-Time RVing. And you can find it at roadmaptofulltimerving.com. And it's open right now if you guys want to get in there. Today we're here to talk about
generators.
Taking care of your generator.
Because when you have a generator, there's things that you need to do to keep it running. And during the summer, you might want to use it for like your AC or, well, any kind of power needs. But right now I'm sitting in heat and I'm thinking if I wasn't plugged into shore power, I'd be running the generator so I could run the AC.
For sure. So just to let you guys know, we're on a very limited internet connection tonight. Our booster seems to be working. So hopefully we're coming in clear. If anything gets weird and it just doesn't work out, we might just have to end it. But hopefully it's working out. If you guys are having trouble, just hit refresh. So let's talk generators.
Hey, Dane.
Most motorhomes come with generators. A lot of fifth wheels come with generators. And then a lot of you may want to buy generators for your fifth wheel or your travel trailer. Or if you have a Class B or C that doesn't come with one, you might want to get one. Mm-hmm. And if you camp in parks all the time and you're always hooked up, you probably never use it. So
yes, probably not.
And then you're probably thinking, well, if I don't use it, it'll last forever, right?
Not so much, unfortunately. They're not one of those things that you can just put away and save for a rainy day.
The day when the power goes out.
The day when the power
it's usually
goes
a bright, hot, sunny day when the power goes out.
Hey, Ted and Sharon, they're here too to
nice.
Come in. We were talking to them yesterday in our student group.
Yeah.
And they're back today.
So, yes, generators, if you don't use them, you lose them.
Mm-hmm.
Is more true. And when you need them, you need them.
Right, right. It's not something you want to find out it's not working when you try to go turn it on.
Yes. And reasons you could need them. This RV park we just pulled into, it's unseasonably hot here. And there's a lot of people in this park and they've had power going out in the back of this park. And if you have pets or you just want to be comfortable and sit in your RV, you might want to be able to run the generator when it's 80% humidity outside, right, and it's hot.
Jen probably knows about that since she's in Georgia right now.
Yep.
Hey, Jen, haven't seen you in a while.
Another reason to keep that generator going is in the unfortunate event you get a flat tire or you're broken down on the side of the road.
Yes.
It's another time you might want to turn on the generator and stay cool while you wait for someone to come. And then the fun reason to have a generator.
When you go off grid, we're more out boondocking. Now, we do use our solar power for most things and run off our batteries. But if we didn't have that way to recharge our batteries, we need to recharge them somehow. And we would do that with the generator. Or if there's times where it gets all of a sudden crazy hot or something while we are out there and we need to run our AC, we need the generator still.
Yeah, so generators are important. They're very useful for RV life. And again, if you have a motorhome, you probably have one already. Some fifth wheels come with them, but then a lot of people add portables.
Right.
So what we want to talk about today is how to take care of that generator so that when you need it, it's available for you.
There's not a lot of information is maybe what I should say. Not misinformation. But a lot of people aren't doing anything.
They just don't know.
They don't know.
Because it's new.
And
you
no
didn't have
a
generator in your house. Most people don't. So, yeah.
No one's ever told you how to do this, how to maintain it. And most things you're thinking, oh, you can put it away. I'll use it when I need it. Hey, it's all good because I'm not using it. Mm-hmm. But that's not how it works with generators. So don't feel bad.
Right, yeah, it's not a big deal. Because even when you go to buy an RV, if you're looking at a used RV, salesmen love to show you the generator and be like, oh, look, it's got super low hours.
Right.
And depending on the age of that generator, that could actually be a bad thing. That could mean that when you actually do start using it, you're going to run into issues.
Yes.
So
The first, we're in sync sometimes. The first tip is maintenance.
yes, generators are engines. They're engines just like your car engine, just like a lawnmower engine, somewhere in between. So take care of it. That means you've got to change the oil in it. That means you're going to have air filters on them. Some generators have coolant in them that needs to be dealt with. They've got spark plugs. They've got all that mechanical junk that you need to take care of and make sure it's in good shape. So for most of the built-in generators that RVs come with, it's usually around every 100 to 150 hours you want to change the oil on them. And then if you're not using it that often, which if you're plugged into an RV park, maybe you're not using it that much, change the oil once a year so that you just don't have old oil sitting in there.
It's an engine.
Yes.
And think of it like that. And you know that you have to change the oil in your engine in your car. So it's like that.
Yep. And with some of the smaller generators, like the Hondas and the wind generators, the real small ones that people like to carry, those sometimes have a little bit faster cycle for their oil changes because they have less oil in them, so it gets dirty faster, I guess. It's real easy to find this information out. You just have to read your owner's manual. And if you don't have your owner's manual, look it up online because almost all of them are online.
Exactly. You can pull them from online. That's the great thing about the internet nowadays, right? You can go to the manufacturer and get your specific generator's manual.
Yes.
And then you can follow its guidelines for maintenance.
And no matter what anyone says on the internet, even us, you listen to the manual. That's written by the people who build the machines. They know what they're talking about. So if it says 150 hours, change the oil, change the air filter, then that's what you do. And if you do those things, then it should operate pretty well for a very long time.
Right. We've got some more people join us. Hey, Diane and Gary, do you guys have generators? You know what? Do you guys ever use your generators? Let us know in the comments. Yeah. I'm curious how many people here have a generator already. I know some of you are just looking at going out RVing. But if you do you use it? Are you keeping up on your maintenance? Number one tip there. Are you keeping up on your maintenance?
Yeah. Tell on yourself now.
Right. And it's okay. I mean, if you don't know, this is why we're talking about it. Right?
And Kevin, that's absolutely right. Every 100 to 150 hours, I know you were looking at some diesel RVs, so those tend to be in the 150 hour range. But yes, if you run them 24/7, once a week, you're going to have to go and pull the oil. And I actually talked to a Cummins rep about this. I asked them, like, how long can I run this generator? Can I just run it? And he told me the same generators that they put in the diesel motorhomes are the same ones that movie production studios use. Right. And they will run them 24 hours a day for the entire however many months they're doing their shoot.
Right, because they're not going to make their stars hot or anything.
Yeah. And they are very strict about maintenance. And every week they dump the oil, they put new oil in it, and they turn it right back on and they let it run. And they run. They just keep on cranking. So yeah, the oil is going to get contaminated and it's going to need to be changed. So if you're doing a lot of tailgating and a lot of boondocking where you're running the generator a lot, then yes. Fortunately, RVs have batteries also. So the generator charges the batteries. And as long as you don't need the air conditioner, you can do most things off the batteries for most of the day. And then maybe you run the generator a little bit at night before you go to bed and a little bit again in the morning.
Right. For the most part, you shouldn't ever have to need them 24/7 unless your batteries are gone.
Or you need that air conditioning.
If
you're tailgating somewhere in a hot asphalt parking lot, then
But usually, I mean, even at night, you don't need it as much then because you have fans and things that you can use. But yeah, that's it. 100 hours, 150 hours.
Yep.
Got to change oil.
But as long as you do that, it should be reliable. As long as it's working the way it's supposed to and there's not a mechanical defect in it, it should keep on cranking until you hit about 450 to 500 hours. And then you've got to do spark plugs and fuel filters and some other things. But as long as you follow those schedules, it'll do it.
Dame brought up something when they drove theirs from Fort Myers to Detroit, it was very hot. And so they ran it whenever they drove, which is, you do use it then, because we'll do that too when we're driving.
Mhm.
We'll run ours so we can run the AC in here, because
Yeah. Well, the front dash works pretty well.
Pretty good,
but Kona sits back here on the couch and he gets hot.
He is right now. So.
And a lot of times we'll stop for lunch, or we'll stop to get,
Mm-hmm.
well, not for gas, but we'll stop for lunch. We'll stop to go out and look at an antique store or whatever. So it's nice to have it on so we can just park, leave the RV, and go. So yeah, definitely use it like that. So that gets to our next little tip here, which is, I think, the biggest tip of all.
Yes. And the one that most people don't seem to know.
And it seems to be a tip not only for generators, but for life. And I'm not going to say I'm good at following this tip, but
well, no,
there
hit
it
that
is.
up there. What do you need to do more of, Brandon?
Exercise.
We all need a little movement, right, in your life for our bodies, but so do your generators.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things where we say use it or lose it, because you really should be running it once a month for 1 to 2 hours and under load. And we mean like a heavy load, like an air conditioner. And the reason that you want to do this is because it gets all those fluids moving, just like we get all the blood pumping in our body, right? It's cardio for your generator. It's going to keep those fluids liquid, and so that they won't fuel varnish, and they don't gum up. Because when it gets gummy, it doesn't run so well. And then you start getting surges in your generator, and that's not producing pretty power. That's not going to work. You like my terms?
I haven't heard this, so yeah, this is funny. Keep going. Continue. I'm just kidding. Oh, typo on the exercise.
Oh, Brandon.
Oh, man.
He filled this out
turn that
earlier.
off.
I didn't look at it.
Here, we'll put Dane's up there. We'll just use his. So, yes.
But it also, just to finish that thought, it also gets the extra moisture out of it.
Right. Because you'll get moisture that builds up in your line. So the real thing you're trying to do is get that fuel to move through. Because the fuel, gasoline, within a month to 45 days, 60 days, it breaks down. And as it breaks down, all the good parts that you want, all the parts that burn and make explosions and make the generator run, they start to dissipate. And what you're left with is this nasty, they call it varnish, afterward. And if enough of that gets into your fuel system, it's a bad deal. It's either taking things apart and cleaning them or replacing stuff. And
nobody wants to do either of those,
no fun.
Really.
So the key is really 2 hours a month under load. Mm-hmm. So we know some people that are like, well, they turn it on to run their coffee maker. So it's like 15 minutes every couple of days.
That doesn't, every couple of days.
Like, yeah, but even still, that's not what you're after.
No.
Because that, yes, it moves fuel.
Long period of time to actually get everything moving through it. Yeah. I mean, they say something about, because you compare this to exercising people. I was like, oh yeah. And they'll say you can walk 30 minutes, but they're not even saying like walk 5 minutes and maybe it'll add up. But I mean, to really get good cardio, you've got to get pumping. Yep. You got to get your blood pumping. Well, think about it like a generator like that. People are like, I'm going to take this leisurely stroll just around my RV. That's not going to do much. Yep. You've got to move. And the same thing with your generator.
And you need to think about a motorhome in particular, because a lot of these are built in. Your fuel tank might be in the rear or the front, depending on what kind of motorhome you have. And the fuel line might run 20 feet to get to your generator. You've got to run it long enough to run through all of that fuel too. And a typical generator burns around 1 gallon an hour. So that could be an hour's worth of fuel that you've got to burn through to get to the fresh stuff that's in the tank.
Right. And so I'm going to say this again, because they say people need to hear things 3 times. You need to run it once a month under load for like 1 to 2 hours, preferably 2 hours under load, like an AC. And that will help keep it nice so that when you go to turn it on later, it's going to work.
Yeah. So a couple of questions here. Nancy, you can use a fuel stabilizer if you're going to be in a situation where you can't run it. So if you're putting it in storage.
I would say that goes with the next one.
Yeah, both of them. If you're putting it in storage or for any other reasons that you're not going to be there to run it, yes, put the fuel stabilizer in, let it run for a couple hours under load to make sure that fuel gets to the generator, because you could put the fuel stabilizer in the tank, but then it never actually gets into the generator and then doesn't really help you. So yeah, definitely do that. And then
let's answer that when we get to the fuel.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, it goes with
fuel. I see. We planned this. I swear.
Right. Tip 3 is all about fuel.
Yes.
And now Brandon can go into all his stuff.
So, first of all, higher octane fuel does not mean better quality fuel. Higher octane fuel means it has an octane inhibitor in it, and it's meant for higher compression engines. Most generators do not need higher octane fuel, and higher octane fuel actually oxidizes a little bit faster than regular fuel. So if you're thinking you're going to put that in and it's going to make you go 60 days instead of 30 days, it's actually worse. So that doesn't mean anything. Basically, you just don't even worry about that. Regular fuel from good, reputable sources is what you're after. And you also want to try to avoid high ethanol fuels. Most gas motorhomes, this is all related to gas, not diesel. Most gas motorhomes and gas trucks and gas generators, all that stuff, they're not going to want very high ethanol stuff anyway. But anything over 10% or so, that ethanol can start to damage the seals and the internal components of the generator over long periods of time. So you want to go with the lowest ethanol you can find if you can. Otherwise, just run it, just exercise it, keep it moving, keep it lubricated, and it should do fine. Fuel stabilizers are okay if you know you're going to put it in storage.
And you're not going to go run it.
Yeah. And then John's question about what about running the gas out? Yeah, that works too. And a lot of the small portable generators actually have a function where you can shut off the fuel and let the generator run until it runs out of gas. And once it's run out of gas, you don't have that gas sitting in there that can evaporate and varnish. So that puts you in a much better position. And even like the Honda generators and some of those, they even have procedures if you're going to store them for a while. And it usually comes down to, yes, run the gas out of them. You could even go as far as putting a little bit of oil into the cylinder to keep the cylinder walls nice and lubricated if it's going to be in storage for a very long time or unused. But that's definitely a thing you can do. Then another thing with generators, just kind of little added bonus tips, are don't really plan to run them at their maximum load all the time. So if you look at like the little 2,000 watt portable generators people like to use, they have a peak that's usually a little bit above 2,000 watts where they can kind of give something a boost to get it started. But even still, you don't want to run it at 2,000 watts all the time. It's going to be more like 1,700, 1,600 watts. That way you're not just never run anything at its max. It's basically life,
right.
Never use a tool all the way to its maximum limits. Don't eat all the food you can eat at the all-you-can-eat buffet. Don't order the biggest pizza when you go to the pizza place.
This is part of the FAQs.
But just give it some room so it has a little bit of work. I'm going to read Joe's question here just because it's long. So just give me a second here.
I'm going to show it.
Oh yeah.
That's not
Did you read it?
No, it was too small.
One of the other things here, you read it, and I'm going to say another thing that I have. When you're looking at RVs, if you're looking at used RVs or used generators.
Well, actually, yeah, I was thinking that when you were talking about number 2. Yeah, because I was thinking we should have said it then.
Yeah.
So related with our number 2, which I just hit on here, exercise. So at the beginning, he mentioned something about the salesmen sometimes like to point out how there are not very many hours on a generator, and that's not always a good thing. So we just told you you're supposed to exercise it 2 hours every month. And if you go and look at an RV, the generator, and the RV is 5 years old, and it has 10 hours on it, that's not right. You know that's not right. There should have been 2 hours a month for 5 years on that generator. So that's 24 hours per year that you should be seeing. So when you get that kind of stuff, think about that. The low numbers are not the best.
Right.
Because that means it's not been exercised. It's probably never been maintained. It's not to say that it won't work, but don't.
It could be one of those situations where it hasn't been used, and then once you start using it, then it starts failing. Because all of a sudden things start moving that were never moved before, and then seals that have kind of dried out have started to leak.
Oh, it's a man after your own heart, Brandon.
Yes.
When it comes to pizza, bigger is better.
Every pizza is a personal pizza if you try hard and believe in yourself, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, Joe, your question about can you leave your generator plugged in?
No, we're not. Just can't see us on screen anymore.
Can you leave your generator plugged in if you're not plugging into shore power? And you should be able to, as long as you don't have an inverter or something else that's getting in the way. But if basically your generator's plugged in and turned on, you get power. If your generator's off, you don't have power. You can leave it like that because nothing's going to happen. And then when you go to plug into shore power, you should be able to just unplug it and plug in normally. You just don't want to forget. And you can, if you want, you can have a transfer switch installed that will automatically do that. So as soon as it sees shore power, it'll cut you off the generator power and send in shore power. That's how a lot of modern electrical generator systems are built.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we do have a question from Gary.
Yes.
Asking if there's a concern when it comes to carbon monoxide when running for a long period of time.
There's a concern that comes from carbon monoxide running for any
all
period
the
of
time.
Yeah.
I was going to say all the time.
Yes.
But it's really not. It shouldn't be an issue. There are certain things that you need to think about when you're running it. Where is your
exhaust?
Thank you. Exhaust. I was about to say outlet. Yeah. Where is your exhaust pointed? And where does it go? Because for us, our exhaust is under one of our bedroom windows, and we don't want to leave that window open if we're running the generator. And that's a bedroom window we might want to leave open sometimes because we'll leave the dogs in there when we leave. But if we have our auto genset start, we can't leave that window open just because if it for some reason has to kick on, then that means all that carbon monoxide is going into the bedroom.
Because a lot of times we'll also have a ceiling fan on, pushing air out, and that would pull air in through that window. So you definitely want to be careful of that. You also want to be careful of other people's RVs.
And yes. And
so if someone pulls in at night close to you and they're running their generator, or you're running your generator towards them, you need to worry about it. I actually went up to somebody in a pop-up trailer because they parked their pop-up trailer right next to this big diesel motorhome. And we had been there for a few days. It was an off-grid type area. And I knew that diesel motorhome ran their generator every day at 5:30 because it woke me up. But
5:30 in the morning.
Yes. And so I went and told the people in the pop-up, like, you just parked right next to their exhaust. You need to move. So
right.
I don't think they did move, but hopefully.
But you're right. We warned them though.
Yeah.
So it's not something that is a worry just because you run it a long time, and they're built to like be able to disperse into the area. But you need to think about where that exhaust is going, how close you are to your neighbors, and where, if you have windows, and don't sit over the window
and make sure your carbon monoxide detector is working properly. All RVs are supposed to have them, but they are supposed to be changed. So after 6 months, I believe it is, you're supposed to. 6 months. That sounds really short.
No, it's like years.
It's like 5 years or something.
But there's like you can test it, and it has a date on it.
There's
to
a
make
date on
sure
it.
that
You when to change.
the date you're in the date for.
And like for us, because I don't know why I thought 6 months. For us, because that exhaust is near our bedroom. Our carbon monoxide detector is all the way in the front of the RV. So we put another one, like a smoke alarm carbon monoxide detector, in the bedroom just to have one that's closer to the exhaust. So definitely make sure you have that, because it is an issue to think about, and it is something that could happen. You also want to make sure your exhaust system's all in good shape. There's no leaks in your exhaust under the RV. The exhaust pipe should extend past the body of the RV so that the light breezes and stuff can catch the exhaust and move it away. And then Connie asked, are the aftermarket add-on exhaust extensions a good idea? Maybe. Cummins officially says they don't like them.
Right.
The reason they don't like them is because the weight that they put on the exhaust pipe could damage the exhaust system while it's running. I don't know. I would say make sure you kind of attach it to the RV or support the bottom of it. We've seen people put wood blocks under the bottom of it to support the bottom so that weight's not coming down on it. They also say that if you had an indoor fan that was pushing in, or your air conditioner system, which I don't really get because our return's on the inside, but there is a small possibility that that exhaust that's being pushed up to the roof could get pulled down into the RV. So those are things you need to worry about. But if you are doing boondocking where you're packed in real tight with people, then they're really nice and almost necessary to have, because if if you think of like a tailgating or a NASCAR type parking lot where everybody's really tight and you're running your generators a lot because it's hot, if everybody's exhaust is going into the RV next to them, then a whole bunch of people are going to fall asleep real quick. So yeah, having it go up seems like a good idea. It also helps with sound. One of our friends has it, and when they put it on, it really controls the sound, because a lot of the sound comes out of the tailpipe, and it kind of pushes that sound up instead of out.
Yeah, the built-in ones aren't as quiet as you would hope.
No.
And so that it works well for that.
Yeah. While we're talking about quiet, please don't buy a construction generator unless you're on your own private property, or you're at like some kind of a NASCAR event and you're in the construction generator area. But, get the nicer, quiet generators. It's
for you and your neighbors.
Yes.
It's much more pleasant to hear that, because you don't hear it as much as you do a construction generator, which is just noisy.
But generators overall, they're really not that big of a pain. Just run it once a month.
Let's hit our points again. So we've got 1, maintenance. So you just need to follow your maintenance schedule per your manufacturer. That's usually 100 to 150 hours on there. You need to be changing the oil.
Sometimes it's shorter on the smaller generators.
Right. And so just make sure you're actually keeping up with maintenance.
Make sure that you are exercising.
Yes. Which is
2 hours. Yeah. Didn't fix it. 2 hours a month under load. And load is something big, like an air conditioner. Air conditioner is a great load.
Right.
So just run your generator, run your air conditioner. And another thing I just thought of that we should mention is when you start your generator, let it warm up a little bit before you go throwing a load on it. Because if you don't let it warm up, it could surge. And basically when the generator is running, the speed it's running at controls its power output. If it's surging, then your power is surging. So you really want a nice smooth run on your generator. And as you add loads, you'll hear your generator crank up and spin faster. And that's totally normal because it's building up to compensate. So let it run 3 to 5 minutes before you throw the load on it. And then when you're ready to shut off your air conditioner first.
And let it cycle down a little bit.
Yeah, let it cool for 3 to 5 minutes. It lets the oil and the internal temperatures come down, so you're not just killing it at a nice high heat, and then that heat just sits there. It doesn't have a chance to cool off.
Trying to keep it healthy.
Yes.
Trying to keep the fluids right. Okay, number 3 is fuel. So we're looking for low ethanol, and high octane doesn't mean it's better.
Nope. Use a stabilizer if you're not going to be there for a while. Diesel is actually a little bit better. It's a little more stable than gasoline, so you can get a few months out of diesel before you need to worry about stabilizing it. But again, think about stabilizing it. Diesel does not do well in the cold.
Right.
So you might get winter diesel if you start moving up north, but think about that. And, generally take care of them. Make sure that they're in good shape, and they should take care of you when you need them.
Yes.
I feel like there's another super important thing that I'm forgetting.
Well, that's the main gist of it. We're not leaving anything out that's super important here. But yes, as full timers, it's mainly about the exercise, because you want to just exercise it rather than putting stabilizer and stuff in it. If you are putting it away for the winter, that's the time that you would usually be doing that.
And for those of you with motorhomes where they're built in, run it while you drive. Yeah. It's totally fine. They even say it in the manuals. It's totally okay. Run your air conditioner. And that way, if you're a park person, you're going from park to park to park, you don't really have a good opportunity to run it. Well, if you got a 2-hour drive between parks, that's your time.
it's a perfect time just to get the exercise in. Maybe you can run beside the RV too and get your own exercise in.
So you guys have any questions about that? Just wanted to make sure you guys are cool on generators, and they'll keep you cool.
Right.
But I'll give you a few minutes to see if you have any questions. Just for any of you guys that are watching later, some good generators that people like, look for inverter generators. Inverter means that they can control their power a little bit better. They're always quieter, and they're always more fuel efficient. So you'll see the little Honda inverter generators people really like. Win is another brand, WEN. Yamaha makes another one. Consumer Reports said Westinghouse is very good. We've never seen anybody with one, but they said
I was just reading the Consumer Reports. Yes, I'm a nerd. And I saw generators in there, and I was like, look, Brandon. They have Westinghouse, and they actually had the Predator.
Oh, yeah, the Harbor Freight Predator gets good reviews as well.
In there. And that was interesting, you know, because it's not like Harbor Freight stuff is the best quality most of the time. So it was pretty interesting.
So what about running when plugged into shore power? Generally, you don't want to do that. If you have a transfer switch in your RV, it's going to transfer you to one or the other. It's not going to let both in.
Right.
If you don't have a transfer switch, you definitely don't want to do it because you can actually backfeed power into the post. It can do weird things. So if you need to exercise while you're in a park, just unplug and do it. But a transfer switch will normally not let that happen because it's a big mechanical switch. And once it gets voltage from one or the other, it just clicks over and your generator can run all day long and it's not going to do anything. Speaking of running all day long and not doing anything, a lot of generators have circuit breakers on them. And it is common that people will trip the circuit breakers by running too many air conditioners or running an air conditioner in a microwave. And then your generator's just cranking along out there, just humming all nicely. And you look at your batteries and they're going down, 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 and you don't know why. And usually the reason why is the circuit's tripped on the generator. So it's turning, but it's not outputting anything. So if you ever have that issue, there are usually a couple circuits on the generator. I learned that one the fun way.
Yes, we did. I remember that.
Running the generator. It was like running for 4 hours. I looked at the batteries and they're at 36%. I'm like, that's not good. Let's see.
All right, Dane, he has the Class A, and so he has a built-in Onan. But evidently they didn't give him an Onan manual.
Well, let me see, Dane, because I'm actually got the Onan manual right here on screen in case I got any trick questions. It does give you a lot of information about oil type, where to find the oil dipstick, where to find everything. They'll give you the maintenance interval schedules.
It's basically, it's going to be a lot more detailed than anything in a general RV manual, because they're not going to cover the.
I really don't know why they do general RV manuals at all.
Yeah, they're not very good. So yeah, I would just go online, save a PDF copy of the Onan.
But Onan is Cummins, so it's the big Cummins diesel brand, but they're very good with documentation. They have drawings of every angle of it. They tell you all the parts you need. Now there are YouTube videos that can help you with just like little tips and tricks. Like one thing to know. What do you have? Is yours a gas or a diesel? I don't know.
I don't remember.
But like we have the gas Onan generator. Don't try to fill it really fast with a funnel because you're going to get oil all over the ground. Yes. I learned that too. But the oil pan is very shallow and it kind of goes back. So you kind of have to fill it a bit and let it run in and then fill it some more. And then you throw a bunch of cat litter on the ground afterward and clean up your mess. But yeah, it's really easy to change the oil in a generator. A lot of them have. Okay, so you got a Canon Star. Oh yeah, you got the Big Brother.
Because everybody, everybody has a Newmar in their class.
So it's super easy to change oil on the gas Onan generators. Just don't fill it fast. Fill it very slowly, and you can order everything you need online. I ordered everything off of Amazon, all the genuine Onan filters and the oil and everything, and got it sent right to me.
Yeah, right to my mom's house because we were there and we had a spot to do it. And he's planning on doing it again when we visit because evidently that's what we do at our house is change our oil.
Yep, that's
in our generator.
Yeah. Yeah, filters and everything are on there. You will need a special filter wrench for the oil filter on the Cummins gas. I never changed the oil on our Cummins diesel. I had it done at a shop because I was diesel life.
Because it's
But also I'm more familiar with gas.
Right.
There is a special wrench you need, and I can send you a link to the one I bought on Amazon that's pretty good because the filter's smaller than a normal oil filter. So normal oil filters are too big. Oil filter wrenches are too big, and it's kind of like there's like a sleeve you got to get up inside of, so you need a wrench that can kind of fit it. There's an Onan one that's all right, but I found another one that kind of automatically adjusts and clamps down pretty good, and it worked well for me.
Is this a generic one?
That is, well, yeah, that's a generic guide. Yeah, you could post that.
I'm going to. This is a link. I actually hit it.
Did it post?
To probably takes there.
Okay, yeah. That is the Cummins Generator Handbook, I believe is what it's called. The RV Generator Handbook for Cummins Onan. So that will cover your RV.
Yeah. So there you go. Makes that a little easy.
And it'll tell you what part numbers you need. Your generator itself is going to say what part numbers it needs on it too. If you look at the sticker on the face of the generator, it tells you what weight oil you need and what oil filter part numbers and everything you need. And that reminded me of my very important point that I was going to say.
Okay.
Is if you're operating in very cold climates, no, strike that, very hot climates, or at very high elevation, your generator is not going to output the same power it does at lower elevations. So don't push it too hard as you get up in the elevations. And on gas generators, there's oftentimes a little adjustment for elevation because you're going to need a little bit different fuel mix because the air is thinner. So you might need to adjust that a little bit to get it to run a little more smoothly. And then don't forget to adjust it back.
And Gary's asking about built-in generators. And yes, they usually do draw the fuel directly from the fuel tank for your motorhome.
Right. And if
it's a fifth wheel, it's not, I mean, it's only going to the generator that's built in. So
yes, in a motorhome, the fuel usually comes off it almost always comes off of the fuel tank. And if everybody's installed everything correctly, that fuel pickup only goes 3/4 of the way into your tank.
I like how you said that. I'm sorry.
Well, it's an RV.
If everybody's installed everything correctly.
It's an RV. You don't know. But in normal situations, the fuel pickup, which should be installed correctly because that part of the RV is
chassis, so it's
pretty right.
Yeah.
It usually only goes 3/4 of the way into the tank. So your generator will get fuel as long as you're above a quarter tank of fuel. As you get closer to a quarter tank of fuel, your generator may lose fuel. And that's so that you can still have fuel to drive your RV and go somewhere.
Right.
So,
to fuel up,
right.
Really, is what they're hoping
exactly.
that you'll do.
So if you're planning to boondock or do anything where you're going to need your generator, make sure you've got at least a half a tank of fuel or more. And consider about 1 gallon an hour. I think it's a little bit less, but that's just a good number to work with. So think about a gallon an hour of fuel. So if you got 300 gallons of fuel, then why did you pick 300? 400 gallons of fuel, then 300 gallons are usable, and then that last bit you can't. I don't know who's got 400 gallons of fuel.
Like 400.
I know.
Who
I need
has
to get some food.
gallons of fuel?
You have 100 gallons of fuel. I think 75 gallons is for your generator. But yeah, it does come right off of there. Gas generators are more efficient than LP generators. That's propane generators.
Yes.
But propane generators don't varnish and all of that, and they don't smell as bad when they burn. But they do use a lot of fuel, and that fuel tends to be more expensive.
Right. So. They do use a lot of propane. Just to clarify, we are talking about the propane generator. It does use a lot of propane.
Yes.
And it tends to be more expensive. But they are built in sometimes.
Yeah.
To a gas RV. I don't think a diesel RV.
Sometimes older, like some of the buses and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true.
They're usually lighter weight too. So if you're doing a lighter weight application, you might want to think about it. Mm-hmm. But they're sometimes cheaper, so that's another reason. But again, the fuel and the ease of getting gasoline, it's just easier to get gasoline all the time. Even diesel sometimes than it is to find a propane fill station and to carry have a big enough propane tank to support it.
Right. So when you're getting a portable. I mean, it's the gas is. That's why it's super easy.
They do have the portables that burn propane as well, but they burn through it really fast, and you're just running around finding propane all the time. So,
yeah.
I tried to talk my brother out of that, but he wanted to go propane for a while, and I think they finally moved to gasoline because they have a dual use generator at their cabin. All right, guys, I don't see any more questions, so I think we're gonna.
We'll let you get back to your night too.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get Brandon food so he doesn't think that motorhomes have 400 gallons of gas in them.
We're in a new time zone now, and so it's messing with me a little bit and the dogs. Because we would.
And it's frustrating because it gets dark so much earlier now.
Yeah.
It's an hour earlier. It's like supposed to start getting dark at 8:20 is sunset. I'm like, it was.
Just remember 9. This in the winter when it's getting dark at 5 o'clock.
I know.
This is okay.
I know. But it was so dark when we walked at 10 last night. And it's nice to take our dogs out at night because it's not as hot. And Lucy she does not do well in the heat. But it was so dark. And it wasn't like that just last week for us. It was
also,
still light at 10.
This park is extremely dark too, which is cool. But yeah. All right. Hey, thanks, John and Gary and Dane and everybody for asking questions and stuff too. And we're going to go. This is RV to Freedom Live. And if you guys want to check out our course, it's roadmap to fulltimerving.com. We'll
get way into more full-time RVing stuff in there if you are hitting the road.
Yep.
So, otherwise, we will see you next week. With
same RV time, same
RV channel.
Might be a different time. Who knows what time zone will be?
Well, it'll still be the same time.
For them, it'll be the same, but I will have dinner. Right. All right, guys. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this replay of our Facebook live show.
Join our Facebook community to participate in the live shows and learn how to live in an RV.
Go to rvtofreedomgroup.com to join the RV to Freedom Facebook group.
And to be notified about our next live videos and more, sign up with the link provided below in the video description.
We want to help you find your RV to freedom.